Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
After much anticipation and heightened expectations, finally, Hangman Page and MJF have had their face-to-face, their promo battle. And it was everything we could have hoped it would be. And we are here to discuss. Welcome, of course, to the WrestleTalk Podcast. I am Tempest, your host, alongside my wonderful and lovely co-host, Sat E. Niangi of the House of the Black Mask. Sat, talk to the people.
Yeah. What day is it?
It's Sat E Day.
What time is it?
It's Sat E time.
You know what, yeah? There's a part of me that wants to call it Sat E Tempest Day.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're getting further and further away from the root bit of this to the point the bit's going to collapse in on itself.
Exactly. Why not? Because there's already a huge debate on what is a Sat E Day. Is it on a Saturday or is it whenever I appear on your screen?
It's like Rusev Day. Every day is Sat E Day as long as Sat E is here.
Thank you. I'm glad you cleared that out. For people debating in the comment section for weeks, what is the definition of Sat E Day? Because it's not in a dictionary at all. But if it wasn't in a dictionary, it would be every single time you see me, it means it's Sat E Day, Sat E Day. But what's causing all this commotion with me singing is because AEW Dynamite got me P-U-M-P, POM! And it added ED.
I wasn't going to say anything. It got you pump. And you know what? It got me pump as well. Make sure, of course, that you're subscribed to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel if you aren't already. And make sure you let your voices be heard in the comments down below. Let us know what you thought of this show and this Hangman Page MJF promo battle. Now, this is what we opened the show with. This was your lead-in, your opening segment. And it was by far the thing I was most excited for on this show. So as soon as this show gets on the road, I'm sat upright. I'm locked in. I got my partner playing Animal Crossing next to me, and I got to tell her to turn it down because nothing can distract me from what is happening here.
It wasn't me. His other love.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that have that in their heads, that we go home together, that your baby is somehow the product of, this union.
We live in a community where both our partners understand that we love each other truly as well.
That's true, bromance. Now, this show starts. MJF and Hangman Page, they both go to the ring. They both grab their mics.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go through this step by step, and more or less I will. But I gotta say, this was perfect. This was everything I wanted. I gotta get that off my chest. MJF goes first, of course, because, he's brash. And he starts doing the MJF shtick a little bit. He talks down to the crowd, calls them poor, all that stuff. Typical MJF. But without going on a video essay length diatribe about how great this was, just from the least remarkable section of it, I think a lot of people are not absorbing the fact that MJF starting out a promo like this with his usual shtick, that is so integral to the character, because you then see the quick flip of the switch when Hangman pisses him off. And if you want to go take a further step back, him trying to win the fans' adoration and everything, not working in his mind, has, in his own insecurity, led him to revert back to what he's most comfortable doing. And that's bad. You should look at that as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a great thing for the character in the sense of the arc that he's going on. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Because he brings up a lot of pro wrestling things. He brings up the history that he has had with Hangman Page. That Hangman eliminated him from the first ever Casino Battle Royal. He called it the first match in AEW history. That's not true. That was Sammy Guevara and Kip Sabian. The historian here. Fact check. Ding. But he brings up that moment. And he brings up beating Hangman Page in the first Dynamite Diamond Ring match in 2019. And he talks about how they've gone on separate paths since then. That Hangman had everything given to him, but MJF had to work for all of this. Hangman walked into AEW with all the hype and promotion, behind the Elite. And then AEW is going to be the first AEW World Champion. Mm-hmm. But MJF started from the bottom and had to work his way all the way up. He does like a little speech. It's a nice opening paragraph for this back and forth. It's not remarkable, but very important to the context of this whole deal. Because Hangman then takes his turn.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, like, immediately, he's just like, why are you so angry? Why are you so, like, do you think I don't know who you are? You feel like you need to list these accomplishments to get people to respect you. And yeah, you've won all these things. You've won the Dynamite Diamond Ring. You've won the AEW World Championship. You won the International Championship. But there's one thing you haven't won, is there? And it's from them. And as soon as he does that, Max snaps, jumps right into his face. And like, as soon as we got that moment, I was like, oh, this is what this, we're getting it. We're getting every element of this that I wanted. Because, yeah, the story of MJF is that he is deeply upset by, in his mind, the fans choosing someone else over him.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have, in many ways, the personification of that stood across the ring from MJF. And he says that he doesn't care about these people, but what he cares about is these people thinking that they can determine who is redeemable and who isn't.
True.
You look at Hangman Page and all that he has done. He stuck a syringe in a man's face. He drank a man's blood. Yeah. He burned a man's house down.
Woo.
And you think he's the good guy, that he's the main character.
Yay.
Yeah, and everybody's cheering. Like, over the last, months, Hangman Page has very much been presented as a heel. And he's been popular, and people have wanted better for him and all of these things. But over the last few weeks, really since the Christopher Daniels thing, now we're seeing a more, I don't want to say tweener, but it's like he is good guy with edge now.
Anti-hero.
An anti-hero in a match. He's a cowboy. He's a proper cowboy. He's not the white boots, white cap cowboy anymore.
No.
But he's the cool cowboy.
It's a good evolution.
It's a very good evolution for his character. And I loved this so much because MJF doesn't just stop with what he feels about the fans.
Mm-hmm.
He then starts to poke the needle in Hangman Page, and he starts talking about Christopher Daniels. How are you going to tell me that you're a good guy when you ended the career of your own mentor, Christopher Daniels? And as soon as that happens, then Hangman snaps. And so you keep his name out of your mouth. And goes on this long speech about how great Christopher Daniels was.
Which is good.
It really helped, I think, put over the significance of that angle. Because, Christopher Daniels he's not ever been a major player in AEW. Early on, he was more focused, but, he was this makeshift EVP character last year, and it never really made a lot of sense. People didn't really attach themselves to it. But this last run with the retirement match, unannounced retirement match against Hangman Page, they're now adding the significance onto it to make that feel more significant. And I really appreciate that because he says that Christopher Daniels was the best of us. He has wrestled in every promotion that you will have ever heard of in your lifetime. And if you ever look at if you go on Pro Fight DB and look at every promotion that you can click on for a wrestler, if you go to Christopher Daniels' page, there's like 30 of them at least, probably more, because he has wrestled in every promotion. So they're really hyping up the respect of all of this. And I'm just sat there going like, this is perfect. This is perfect pro wrestling television. They keep going back and forth at each other. And each sticking the needle exactly where their kayfabe characters are going to feel it the most. Because this is really, aside from a very brief moment where Hangman broke when CD had to tell him that he was retired, this is the first time that we've seen anything close to what would be described as regret. This was like, as soon as you mentioned that sore spot with Hangman Page, he snapped. And he said that Christopher Daniels went out a warrior's way. He died a warrior's death.
Yeah.
And he probably wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So he's not saying that he regrets what happened, but he feels the significance of what he has done. And that's in so many ways better. There's so much subtlety and nuance to that. And he says to MJF, when you're gone, will these people look at you as a service to this business? Will they look at you as someone that elevated this sport? And ultimately, the answer is no. At least that's the one that they're putting forward here. And it doesn't stop there either. They kept going. They kept bringing this up layer by layer. This segment was an ogre eating an onion-flavored cake. That's how many layers we're talking about, man. I really loved how this ended, because I'll give you a chance to say your piece as well, because I thought the way that they left the segment so perfectly encapsulated both of these men's strengths and the other's insecurities, which is what this whole promo segment was completely about, where MJF gets really worked up after being told that he'll be remembered as a nobody. And he says to Hangman Page, I talk better than you, I look better than you, I wrestle better than you, I carry myself better than you. What can you look me in the eye and say that you're better than me at? And Hangman just lifts the mic to his mouth and says, I'm real. And everyone goes, ooh. And MJF, Max, this sinks into him. He gets that kind of glazed eye look that he gets sometimes, where you can tell he's really pissed off, but he's not filled with fire. He's just you can tell there's a lack of humanity behind his eyes sometimes. And he looks at him and go okay, Hangman, you can be real. You can be the main character, because I have no problem playing the bad guy. And in some ways, that could be looked at as a very simple line. But there's so much weight behind that when you look at the arcs that both of these guys have gone on and what they have tried to say about each other in the weeks leading up to this, with MJF telling Hangman that he doesn't have the spine to be a bad guy. He doesn't have the killer instinct you need in this business. And that MJF does. And he's happy to be the villain of this story. But ultimately, that's not true. Because the crux of his whole character is the want to be loved by the people. I could write a whole book about this segment, man.
You should.
This is... Sometimes expectations get raised way too high, but this is the latest in a long run of defining promo segments for MJF. This will be one that gets clipped out and put in those highlight packs. They'll grab sound bites from them. They'll air this amongst the Punk and the Regal and the Ospreay and all the other great promo segments we've gotten from MJF. And this immediately it made me love pro wrestling. This was everything I wanted it to be.
Well, you know what? There's a reason why certain people get annoyed with MJF. The guy has so many layers, and maybe it's part of his character. You know, sometimes when people are someone's playing 4D chess, and you guys just don't get it. You're like, man, what are you doing? I guess he has to do low-hanging fruit because you have to be disappointed. Where he's kind of like the person you see so much potential in, but he lets his inner demons get the best of him. I forgot the name of this guy that does there's this YouTube website. There's this YouTube channel where he had all these indie wrestling mini videos, and there's one on MJF where he went into his house and his house wasn't real, pictures weren't real, the backstory was telling you wasn't real. So for me, I know that there's an MJF lore where he wears almost like a Patrick Bateman mask, so you don't get close to him. This whole, I need a microphone and a scarf to get over. He peacocks himself because, like you said, there's deep insecurities and heartbreak inside him. He's a tragic figure.
Absolutely.
Right? He's a tragic figure, but he does not want your sympathy. He wants your adulation. He wants your love. And however he can give the love, whether through flattery or through monetary means or however you can give it to him, he would take it. When he was a face briefly a couple of years ago, wow, 2 years has gone by. Crazy.
He came back as a. Now go on.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
he came.
Right.
I mean, no, you're not wrong. He did come back as a face, but the crowd changed. The crowd changed. You know, it was a weird the intersection of what was going on. Crowd has moved on. The stink of his old feud and his title reign, people still remembered that. So it was a bit awkward. Then he had that tattoo and all that kind of stuff. So he wasn't the MJF you remembered and loved. So for him, that was a rejection. It's kind of like, I showed Adam my heart and he crushed it. I showed you guys my heart. You know, you're meant to lift me up after the betrayal, but you guys also let me down and clown me. So I'm going back to my old self. That's tragic in itself. All he wants to be is loved for who he is, but he can't be loved for who he is because in a weird way, he's been proven right. We are kind of fickle with him. We're not ride or die. But Hangman Page, you know, we've been ride or die from the beginning. We're like, he should be 2-time, 3-time AEW World Champion by now. He's honestly the guy in the company. But yeah, MJF did a great promo. But what I loved about when he got to Hangman Page and his connection with Christopher Daniels, here's the thing about the Christopher Daniels relationship and Hangman Page. Had that been highlighted more last year? Because yeah, if you watch the Elite and all that kind of stuff, you know there's a brotherhood amongst the cast members that were involved. SCU, exactly. And then when, like you said, Daniels was undercooked as a character. Had they done it from last year, where he's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Like it led to months and months of him constantly trying to hit. You're not the Adam I remember. You're not the guy I remember when I wrestled years ago. Had they done that, they would have hit more than they have in this Texas Death Match. They packed in what would have been like a 6 month to a year kind of slow build storyline into a month to program. And because of the exposition by Hangman Page, he done the story justice. Because going into it, we're like confused. We're like, why is he facing Christopher Daniels, who hasn't been a character of a note in a while? No disrespect to Daniels, it's just how he's been positioned. He's gone from being an agent in the back, breaking up fights, to like, wait, okay, we're meant to recognize him as a character again. You know what I'm saying? But what I love about the fact is that after Hangman Page beat Christopher Daniels, ended his career, then the next week, Daniels comes back, but he doesn't want to fight him. He goes, "No, man, I'm done. It's cool." I think that humility that Daniels showed broke the spell of whatever fog, anger. You know when you got blind rage and you're angry and you're not seeing sense. You just want to be angry at everything. Everything you say, everything anyone does, it just pisses you off. But when he showed him humility, I think Hangman Page was like, wow, human decency. I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah,
because you think about the Elite turned it back on him, right? Swerve situation. He's been stuck in toxic situation where he hasn't seen any good. So in his mind, nobody's good. But when you got a guy that he beat, pummeled, pillaged, ended his career, did Daniels goes, "I'm gonna burn your house down. I'm gonna kidnap your kid." No, he's like, no, dude. Like, I'm done. Like, no beef with me. You know, I hope you're happy the way you are. And I think that's what hurts him more. That cut much deeper than actually doing anything physical to him, because he expects people to do that. But the fact that Christopher Daniels showed that kind of kindness, like heart.
Yeah.
His heart grew a bit. He's like, "Oh crap!" He goes, "Where am I?" No, conscious. Don't jump into me. I think that was the if people ask why is he all of a sudden a tweener, the change, that humility shown by Daniels is why he caped for him. Why
absolutely
like, you do not talk about that guy. He's the best of us. That's because it all came flooding back. This is my friend.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up as well, because the segment itself as well ends because they have their face-to-face and they kind of like, they get really riled up and they're looking like, okay, we're going to do this right now. And MJF goes to turn to leave. And he's like, you know what? No. And they're even saying on commentary, it's not often that Max is the bigger man. And he turns around and he spits right in Hangman's face. Leaves a loogie hanging from his face.
Was like,
yucky. And this, of course, enrages Hangman. He's going to beat the piss out of him, but Max gets away, and there's security guys trying to wrangle him. And this is when Christopher Daniels comes face-to-face with him, and he was like, this is the Adam that I was trying to get to see the light. And that's kind of how we left things. Hangman then left. But it didn't even, oh my God, it just kept going. It just kept more layers. Christopher Daniels coming in at a certain point. Like, I said this the first week where they had that interaction, where I was like, ooh, I maybe would have liked to have seen like Christopher Daniels be held off TV for a really long time to sell the significance. And again, I am proven wrong time and time again at how excellent CD's inclusion in this story has been since that moment. And this was just another example of it. To get Hangman to see the light has been his mission over the last couple of months. And now we're seeing it work. And that's the thing. Like, if that was his mission and he just couldn't do it, I think that's a fairly static story. You probably could take it interesting directions, but this one is so much more interesting. Where you've got on one side the cowboy that is good, deep down is good, but is tempted by this hate that he feels for so many people who have wronged him. And on the other side, the scumbag of all scumbags, who's tempted by the love he needs to feel from the audience. It's a perfect inversion of the other. And I could not have written this better. I don't think anyone could have performed this better. This was a 10 out of 10 segment. This was everything I want out of a wrestling promo. They took real life and wrestling, mixed it. You don't know what's real emotion, what's just fact, what is fiction, because it's all pro wrestling.
You're a poet.
I love this stuff.
This was
man.
a love letter. Just clip it and keep it. This is what Tempest likes in wrestling. Okay, guys, remember this.
It's just nuanced characters where you don't need a big, like, everybody's got their own taste, and I'm not going to say one thing's better than the other. Some people want the big, like, soap opera storylines, and I am absolutely happy to love that as well from time to time. But at its root, you just get two interesting characters, and you give them a reason to fight, and you sell tickets. This has become my feud of the year. Like,
we're just a couple of months in.
And we're a couple months in, and hopefully, listen, AEW's had a real good few weeks.
I've been loving it.
I'm not gonna be so bold as to say that they won't have a bad show or a bad stretch or anything like that, you know, but we're going into WrestleMania over on the other side. Big things happening here, there, and everywhere. This could be a very good year for pro wrestling, and I would be very happy to see something even better than this come down the pipeline this year. So let us know what you thought of this excellent promo segment. If you didn't like it, I'm scuffing your shoes. And have your opinion. It is wonderful. Share them. I'd love to hear everybody's takes on this, what you feel about Hangman, MJF, the matches that they will have, because of, announced shortly thereafter, they will be wrestling at Revolution. Big ups to that card. I'm very looking forward to it. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below. We're going to get into the rest of our show as well, because backstage we had the Undisputed Kingdom, and basically they just asked Roddy if he was going to beat Orange Cassidy tonight. He said, yeah, I'm going to beat him, then I'm going to beat Takeshita, then I'm going to go and beat Kenny Omega, and he's going to win all these things. He was lying. However, the most notable thing about all of this is that they asked Kyle about the conglomeration, which I thought we'd all just decided didn't exist anymore, kind of.
I like it.
I liked it, but they never went their own ways or anything like that. It just kind of stopped. You just stopped hearing about the conglomeration. And it turns out Kyle will say that, listen, the conglomeration's not really a faction. It's just kind of a group of dudes that like each other.
It's a vibe.
Well, it's a vibe. It's a lifestyle. And it's like, okay, fair. Like, it was clearly like, here are all of our like upper mid-card baby faces that we don't really have anything for through the summer. So I guess we'll put them all together.
They didn't. I still am on the hill of you don't need Kyle in the group. You can continue, you know, because I like Ishii being in the group. It gives Rocky Romero an excuse. It's like an extension of best friends.
Yeah,
Rocky's like, oh look, I got something to do when I'm around here, which is good for him. And then Willow is the female member. I still feel like he's got potential as a group. And then you had bloody Mark Briscoe killing on the promos every single week. That was a highlight. For me, that alone is the reason why that group should never die, or we should never pretend that it never existed, because it gave us those precious moments, those precious Briscoe promos. So yes, conglomeration never dies. It lives in each and every one of us.
Conglomeration for life.
For Rizzle.
We then had our opening match as the Patriarchy took on the Opps with their new music.
Oh yes, it's understated but bass heavy.
It's not bad, but Samoa Joe's song is so good that I don't know. It'll take a little getting used to because I love Samoa Joe's song.
I feel like it made so because of who he's with. All right, the base is Samoa Joe. The undercurrents is Shibata and Hook. Right, it's meant to be that layers of that. It's like ominous, but it's also groovy. It's like an ominous groove. Because what can you give them? You can give them a heavy rap song, yeah, and people are nodding their heads and whatever, rock your head like this, whatever. Or you can get something that's understated.
Yeah, boy.
But like you said, it was your first time hearing it. Sometimes, it would take weeks or months.
I need to let it marinate a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
So this match, the Patriarchy and the Opps, it was pretty simple. This was like sort of a re-debut for the Opps in a lot of ways. They're newly christened. They've got a new name, new music and everything. So this was like here's a big time trio. They've been given music, so they're not just going to be thrown together and split up and whatnot. This is going to be a thing. So, cool. I'm into that. I like this trio a lot. I'd like to see them be trios champions, in fact. We got this match, which was essentially Christian doing everything he can not to be, not to have any physicality. He would tag out immediately as soon as it looked like he was going to have to be involved in a fair fight. He would tag out to one of his two identical twin sons who would get in, they would get beaten down. Everybody kind of got a chance to kick ass a little bit. But eventually, they got the heat. Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne managed to get one over on Shibata for a little bit and beat him down. And eventually, we got a hook hot tag where he just ran wild, took out everybody in sight. Christian was like getting involved, but immediately being thrown out of the ring by Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe did his like suicide dive elbow forearm thing and landed really hard. Like he's Samoa Joe, you are simply too old to be taking basically a flat bump on the outside from the running in the ring. But regardless, Samoa Joe managed to get back to his feet. We got an awesome finish in this match where Nick Wayne went for Wayne's World, which is essentially his version of the Os Cutter, from the turnbuckle. And he just gets caught in the red rum. Perfectly timed, by the way. Like, that spot looks clunky a lot of the time where you're trying to also jump catch someone and go down. Like, you see it whenever, like, Jericho tries to catch someone in the code breaker as they're coming off the ropes. Like, it works.
Timing.
It works sometimes, and when it does, it's really good. But it's like trying to drop kick someone out of midair. It's tough. Yeah. If you do it right, it's great. And here, they did it great. And Christian could have gotten in the ring to break it up, but Samoa Joe kind of stepped to him, and Christian just kind of like backpedaled and got out of the ring. So, Nick Wayne passed out. The Opps are your winner. I don't know how much longer I'm going to care about this feud, because we've been going since like Grand Slam, basically, in September, and it's been a while. But I still am very much into Samoa Joe versus Christian Cage as a singles match. That's about as much gas I have left in the tank for it. If they manage to get the trios titles on one of these two teams, I could see that being a good title defense. But I'm about ready for this to be wrapped up and people go their separate ways. And honestly, I think that probably will happen at Revolution. That'd be my guess. I don't know.
Well, to piggyback of what you said, I love the new presentation from the Opps. That was good. That was needed. Instantly when they came out, I was like, give me the Opps versus Hurt Syndicate. That's what.
Yes, please.
Head, right. So here's my issue with the Patriarchy. It's a tired act. You can say that they ran out of gas when Killshot. There's a
switch. Pardon you. Wow. Swerve Strickland is Killshot.
There's a kill switch shaped hole in the group.
Yeah.
It's so obvious because right now it's Christian and two dweebs.
Yeah.
And it pains me to say that because one of those people, Kip Sabian, is someone that I know. Someone I've been rooting for since the moment he signed with AEW. I was like, man, I hope things work out for him in AEW. I am invested in his success to do well. And when he was, in his original character, he was super bad. It was, it could have been a decent mid-card act. It just didn't really go. There's so many, even back then, even though they didn't have the pick of the litter of all the wrestlers because NXT was under a monopoly at the time of taking all the best indie talents. he could have been built more. He could have been in Jericho Society in the beginning. Who knows? But then he changed into his character where he was wearing, the paper bags over the head. And I was like, oh, the Shia LaBeouf character-esque thing. And it was weird. And like you said, the performances against Pac didn't really hit. So, and then he had the Butcher and the Blade. And I was like, that's great. Your misses are hanging out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, we're byproducts. We're kind of like brothers because our misses are deathmatch wrestlers. Let's be a group. And the Butcher and Blade, they never really found their, place as well. So it's like, put them together. Nothing was really done with the three of them. And then when he got put into the Christian storyline, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's a huge opportunity for a guy. It's like a sink or swim moment. And so far, it's sinking because they haven't fleshed out his character. Like, why are you in there? Yeah, the whole he's my new son. That hasn't been fleshed out. They haven't given him a lot to do. He's got a toothpick. He grew his hair out a bit. He's got a Fu Manchu, but that's what he has right now. There's nothing really there. And then he's not really a deciding factor in his matches. Because what was great was Kill, Switch, Luchasaurus. He was that guy. He was like the X factor. If everything goes wrong for Christian Cage, you know that Luchasaurus is gonna be there for him. Yep. He doesn't have that now. No. Mama Wayne could, but as a woman that men can't hit, you're gonna get distracted. But they need a heavy hitter. I put down names like Komoroto. He's the guy that's still around somewhere, right?
Sure.
You need some, even though you'd be like Komoroto, but if you build him as like this hoss character, presentation, everything, you'd forget. You'll flush down the toilet the years that you know about this guy, Nick Komoroto. You flush the years of him being with part of the factory, or when he went all Italian once upon a time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you just give a big guy, Christian's in the talking, you need a Tomko. Listen, this guy's got a great relationship. Tomko, Luchasaurus, he can do it. Just give him a heavy, Christian makes it work. I put Josh Woods there because Josh Woods is a talented guy, but even though he's not as big in terms of height, but he got the physicality.
He's imposing.
Yes. So I was putting a list of names. Instantly, you think, oh, actually, that makes the group feel a bit.
Yeah.
They look inadequate. It's like Christian and the Bumbling Idiots crew. Yeah. And that's why I'm over the group. I liked it because, it got tiring. Is Luchasaurus going to turn on him, blah, blah. They ran the well too much, or it got pretty dry. My mouth was full of dirt because they did it a lot. But at least he had someone, an X Factor. He needs that. Because right now, I'm not feeling the group is Christian and Geeks.
Yeah.
Geek Squad.
It's like you said, and we've kind of touched on this a number of times on the podcast before, but it's nobody's fault, obviously. Kill Switch not being there is, it's nobody's fault. And I wish him, a speedy recovery, as I continue to do and will always do.
Of course.
But Kill Switch's presence there not only did a lot for the matches and the structure of them, because you had three very distinct characters who wrestled very different styles, young rookie Nick Wayne, wily, sleazy veteran Christian, and big powerhouse, the muscle of the group, who eventually is going to have his buttons pushed too many times and is going to turn on him, and the big guy. All that worked very well within the context of keeping matches fresh and keeping everybody unique. But it also was the story crux of the group, is when is Kill Switch finally going to have too much of Christian Cage and snap and beat him?
Yep.
Well, we thought it was going to happen at Wembley Stadium. It certainly looked like it was. And then that angle just stopped. It was bizarre. But that was the narrative hook for all of this. And I'm not talking about the Son of Taz.
Send hook.
It's just, they're all the same. Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian are the same character. The only difference between them is one of them brings his mom to the ring. That's it. I love Mother Wayne, don't get me wrong. But I've never been a big Kip Sabian guy. I've never quite seen it. I thought they did one good segment to show why Christian would bring him into the fold when he stopped him and Christian would have gotten his ass beat by the Death Riders at Grand Slam. This whole deal. That was the one segment where I thought this worked. Otherwise, the best it's been for me is funny. They do some funny stuff backstage every now and then where they just get their ass beat. But otherwise, this group needs more, particularly if Christian's going to be world champion at any point. The closer I get to Revolution, the more I think that might actually be happening. So you kind of need to heat up this group or this character or anything of the sort if this is the direction that we could possibly be heading in. I don't know. I think Cope might win the title and Christian might beat him. I don't know. I'm losing my mind about it. I don't know.
You know what? If there was a time to do it,
sure.
Right?
Sure. No, I'm not advocating for it.
Or he loses. What can we just advocate? Can we just advocate him losing? He should have never won it. Like, as much as I love Christian, he's one of my favorites. I've been like, he was my guy. Like, I love Edge. I love Edge, but Christian was my guy. I think it's 2004. I realized I was like, I really love this guy. He's actually got what it takes to be world champion, and it didn't happen in WWE. Happened in TNA. We saw that potential. AEW having a twilight career, like doing phenomenal things. Great abs. Great abs. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't know the turtleneck nowadays, but I feel like 2025 hasn't really. It started off a bit, a bit of a. It's not since he debuted when he outworked everyone. They were like, oh, what? They need to do something. Yeah. Even he's a bit like, oh, great. This is part of my. He's got a shtick now, which is sad. He used to be fresh, but again,
he needs to find somebody else that doesn't have a dad. Freshen him up a little bit.
Again. Please, whoever's watching this, just give him a new hot. He needs someone in the group. Something.
Backstage, we had Chris Jericho, who was being laughed at by Renee Paquette, frankly. And you know what? Good for you, Renee. Doing the Lord's work, like a real Canadian, not one born in New York. And essentially, the purpose of this was Chris Jericho challenged Bandito, said, "I'll give you an ROH title match on Collision." And he said that people are getting too comfortable around Chris Funkin' Jericho. And don't censor that, mods or Vinny or anybody, because I didn't swear, because neither did he. It's really lame. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I thought that the recent Ricky Starks busted open interview is probably behind the saltiness of, like, people getting a bit too comfortable. Because context is king. Ricky Starks did an interview with Busted Open Radio, and he mentioned one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, is like he mentioned that certain veterans will get involved in his business. He wouldn't mention names, and then people put two and two together because some people thought it was Cope, but they're like, nah, it's not Cope. It's probably the other guy of influence who's a veteran, and people put two and two together. They think it's Chris Jericho, and then the timing of this promo of like there will be no AEW. There'll be no Chris Jericho, no AEW. So for me, it felt like subtle. You know how, because I listened to Grapsody, Phil said that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Shout out to the boys.
Shout out to the guys. They're my guys. I love them so much. So Philip Lindsay said that CM Punk did a promo in AEW. Tell me when I'm telling lies. And then on SmackDown, Roman Reigns like, you're telling lies.
Yeah.
But
you're lying.
You're lying. Yeah, that's it. You're lying. And then he was smart enough within the promo to be like, yeah, it's just Roman just going on a ramble. But you could, from the way Philip said it, hey, maybe it's. So the way I saw it was like, yeah, it could be Jericho's had enough of Bandito, tired of the disrespect, yada, yada. Or it's he heard this guy on the radio. It's like you forgetting that I am the reason why AEW exists. That's his whole shtick. But at the same time, now that I said that, people come to their own conclusions. Free the ROH title. Do something with the division, with the brand. Is Bandito gonna win the title? Probably not.
I'd like to see it. I don't care at this point.
I want it, but
I'm sad by that. But I don't care. Like. The Ring of Honor title is the 4th mid-card belt in AEW.
Bingo.
They don't need it. Put it on Ring of Honor. Give it to someone like Brian Keith. Let him have amazing matches for like 9 straight months. Elevate his stock.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
When we get to the big bill section, there's a proposition I have, but when we get there,
we'll
let you guys know.
Funny enough, we're there because the next match was a street fight between Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill. Now, this has been building for a long time. They probably would have done this sooner had Powerhouse Hobbs not taken one of those bricks off the dome and gotten a little bit woozy for it. But this was a very fun little street fight. This had a lot of the big Haas meat-on-meat action that people keep cheering for. And they start with some crowd brawling. They went up. Every time they did this, I kept thinking I might see Tegan in the crowd because she was in attendance for this.
Shout out to the 3rd member of the House of the Black Mask, Tegan. We love you.
Love you. Never saw her. If somebody wants to find a screenshot, I think she was sat in that area somewhere. But this was a very fun little bit of crowd brawling. They went up. They came back down. They start using weapons on one another. Big Bill grabs a wrench. He swings it a bunch of times, misses, eventually connects, busts Powerhouse Hobbs wide open. And this is where he's able to get the heat. Big Bill was... can tell he's got a lot of confidence right now. He's feeling himself. He should, you know. He's done very well for himself in the last little while, especially. And he's been rewarded with big pops in places like Australia and Wales and such. But he rubbed a lot of Powerhouse Hobbs' blood, like he rubbed it on his lips and was doing a little jive and all this. And eventually, Powerhouse Hobbs is able to fire back up. He uses a chair, beats down Big Bill. Brian Keith comes down, and he starts trying to get involved. He swings a chair at Powerhouse Hobbs, but Hobbs punches it out of his hand, and immediately Brian Keith starts trying to back off, and Hobbs just does a one-handed choke slam through the table that's set up in the corner. Really good stuff. They both kind of brawl to the entrance way, and Powerhouse Hobbs hits his version of the World's Strongest Slam, the Powerhouse Slam, or whatever it's called. World's Most Dangerous Slam, I think it might be called. I'm not sure. Hits that on the stage area, and then grabs the backpack, hits Big Bill with the bag of bricks, pours them out, and then picks up Big Bill and essentially slams him through. There's 2 tables set up at ringside with barbed wire on them. Yeah. Big Bill goes through one of them, and this was treated essentially like a Texas death match where you can win by pinfall submission or by knockout. So last man standing type rules, can't answer the 10 count. And indeed, Big Bill, and I really like this as a finish as well, because Big Bill not only was selling the enormous bump that he just took through this table, but he was like ensnared in the barbed wire and was like in pain, but also couldn't escape. So I don't know. Maybe you can look at that and go like, well, he's got reason to want to fight him again.
Bingo.
You didn't knock him out. He was just trapped. I don't know. Maybe this is the blow off. Maybe you go different directions after this, but there is room for more if they want to do it. I really enjoyed this match.
Big Bill is a 90s main eventer stuck in the 21st century.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying this is if Big Bill existed in the 90s, he'd be a multiple-time world champion. We're in the 21st century, and the reason why I'm saying this is we haven't had a promotion, I'm talking about both WWE and AEW, take risks. Do something like left field.
What, like Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble?
Oh, there is a recent left field. You know what? I'll give WWE that. They did do something. You know what? Thank you. Fact checker!
I keep you on your toes.
Oh, he does. I'm on my tippy toes. And then what I'm saying is, Big Bill, break away from the learning tree. You're over his head internationally. Squash Marks. Give him the AEW title. Give him a month or 2 run. That's what I meant. Like, the guy is 38, 39. He's a victim of an old senile man not pushing big guys or pushing people of talent. But then again, it's weird. So when Big Bill was in the WWE as Big Cass, without Enzo, there was no pops. No pop, I was going to say, right?
He was not very good in WWE,
right?
I'll be perfectly honest. His time as W. Morrissey in TNA really freshened him up. And since then, it's weird because, like, I don't know, when Big Bill showed up in AEW, I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that one. But he has done very simple, like, well-executed runs that haven't been massive.
No.
But, like, his little short tag run with Brian Cage, the summer of the Brochachos, was really good. The makeshift team with him and Ricky Starks was quite good.
That's my favorite. All of his run in AEW, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, and it's like none of these things scream like forefront to the promotion by any means, but they don't have to. It's just one of those guys where he seems like a bit of a utility player, where he can slot into sort of any role that you ask him right now. And before, when he wasn't a very good wrestler, maybe you would struggle to do that a lot more. But now, a really solid utility guy who's also really tall and can talk and all of that, like, yeah, that's a valuable piece of your roster. So shout out to him.
Yeah, so this is me doing a campaign. Please, Big Bill, become world champion one day. He's what you guys thought you had in Wardlow.
Wow, yeah, honestly, kind of. Lance Archer and Brian Cage were interviewed backstage, and they basically just said that they're going to go face-to-face with the Hurt Syndicate on Collision. I will be seated for it. Justin Roberts announced for the crowd that Double or Nothing will be in Phoenix, Arizona this year, not Las Vegas, which is good because those Vegas crowds were not getting up like they used to. So, given how great this crowd was, maybe we're going to get another really good pay-per-view crowd. It's something to look forward to, in my opinion. Then, Timeless Toni Storm came out. She made her entrance, and they hit her with a spotlight, like
Loved
Batista in 2010. Spotlight only on her, and she did her whole promo this way. Now, she said that, you know, she called herself a bunch of names that I won't repeat here because they are rude.
I love it. I love it.
It's silly. It's good fun. She talked about Mariah May and beating her at Grand Slam, and she said that she is proud of her despite everything. And she beat her with her small package. You should have used protection because the biggest small package ever.
It railed her.
Railed dick jokes is highbrow comedy.
The biggest package, and it railed. And she plugged her film as well.
And yeah, she plugged her film, Queen of the Ring, that will be coming out in early March. Shout out to Alex, the one true Queen of the Ring. And yeah, she said that she has put Mariah May behind her, and she's now looking to the entire world of women's wrestling, and it doesn't matter whether it's Willow Nightingale or Kris Statlander or Wendy Bloody Richter.
Big pop.
It's funny. She wants to face everybody, so have at it. And yeah, she said that God is a woman and her name is Timeless. And that's how she left it. And I was really hoping that we'd get to that point and like Jamie Hayter's music would hit. Thank you. Just to be like I get it, we will set it up eventually, but maybe it's because this episode just felt so on fire right here. I was just like, give me more, give me more, give me more. And maybe that's a sense of entitlement speaking, but just an immediate next direction for the next challenger for the AEW Women's Championship, just to give us something new. And there is no match that is higher on that list for me right now than Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. Their match at Full Gear 2022 is one of my favorite women's matches in AEW history. I want to see Jamie Hayter back in the mix again. I don't know when we're going to get this match. Maybe soon. It may be a longer wait. But it feels like we've been waiting with Jamie Hayter for a long time because she's not really done a whole lot of notes since coming back at Wembley. Julia Hart rivalry it's been fun, but
side quest.
She's been doing side quests, and she should be focused on the AEW Women's World Championship. And when you look at it, Toni Storm was the one that beat her and injured her in the Double or Nothing match where Toni won the title. I would like to see that. I would have liked to have seen it here. The segment was still good. I just would have loved to have seen exactly what direction we're going next.
So I been thinking, it just hit me in the head when I was watching Dynamite. Toni Storm is so over that I think you'll do a disservice to the babyface versus babyface rivalry. In Jamie Hayter's mind is she lost the title because of Toni Storm. I think the only thing that can salvage this return because they cooled her down.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just be honest. They cooled her down to the point where it justifies a heel turn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the only way they save it. Because in my mind, yeah, when we were talking and I was thinking, who could, now that Mariah May's done, now that feud's over, it's not going to be a back and forth rivalry. It's kind of like, it was like a character building feud. You built a new player, right?
Yeah. I think they will go a third time at some point, but I don't need it like on the next pay-per-view.
Bingo. I'm thinking the woman to end the run, there's two of them. It could be a champion versus champion thing with her and Mercedes, or it should be Jamie Hayter. I think Jamie Hayter should end it. I think Jamie Hayter should turn heel. She'll say that you took this away from me. They love you. And gosh darn it, they are making fun of me look like Daphne from Scooby-Doo, so F them. So I want my title back. You've got 70s versus 40s harlot. Starlet. Whoops. Go one-on-one. And you could, if you wanted, have a side of Mariah May playing the part of Owen Hart with Bob Backlund, where it's like, I hate you so much, the enemy of my enemy. So you have them two kind of like teaming up. And then it's like Mariah May was like screwing over Toni. To protect Toni, she can help Jamie, even though Jamie doesn't need the help, but that kind of...
There's things you can do.
There's things you can do, because Mariah, I do feel like the Jamie Hayter would, benefit from having I want to say Stokely, but Stokely's too comedic. But someone on the side with her as she gets that revenge to become champion, not Britt. Anyone... You know what? Give me Rebel.
Yeah, what's Rebel doing these days? Let's see it. We got a Gabe Kidd video package because he is going to be on Collision this week. Again, I will be seated. Very excited. He's had the match of the year so far with Kenny Omega. So, yeah, boy. Also, go watch the Bullet Club, every Bullet Club member episode of Survival Series, where he and Clark Connors and Alex Coughlin all try and name every single Bullet Club member alongside Ollie and Luke. It's a very good episode, one I'm most proud of.
I love that someone said that AEW get Gabe Kidd and NXT got Moose.
I know which one I would rather have, personally. Willow Nightingale was then interviewed, and she immediately cuts off Renee to talk about how the Death Riders try and jump her, and Marina Shafir keeps getting in her business, and Mox, you think you can do all of this, and immediately she gets jumped by the Death Riders and laid out backstage. Stop making Willow look like a geek. It would be great if they then did this segment, and she eventually came back out and brawled with Marina Shafir. But she is the afterthought of every segment that she is in.
No. They're building. It's gonna be Willow and Marino. That's the way I see it.
That's fine. You can do that
I know
while
what you mean.
still keeping
That
some
babyface
fire on
yeah.
Willow. Because again, when I will go through the rest of this segment, Willow is like the fifth most important person in this segment potentially. You know, like so. Nah, that it's a bit of a nitpicky type thing, but. I love Willow, and
before
I
you
want
continue, because I know there's important things you want to mention. I just want to quickly say, Willow's probably the first person to acknowledge that Renee Paquette's husband is that Moxley guy.
Yeah.
Because the reason I say that is, if you're a casual viewer, if there's such a thing as a casual viewer because of Max, and you're watching this interview lady, that interview lady's husband is, oh my, you know them ones because they don't highlight. Because your husband, I was like, is that the first acknowledgement in AEW? That's the thing, right? Because they never
in a long time. I mean, they talk about it in the long YouTube cut of the interview they did.
That doesn't exist. That's the different universe. But yeah,
if it's not on TV, you can't expect people to count it, basically. But it's been the first time in a very long time that was played up as part of the story. But this brawl and this impromptu promo segment from Jon Moxley is he grabbed the cameraman, led him to the ring, and said that, he's the world champion. All these people are sat in his building, in his seats. He owns AEW. At Grand Slam, he damn near popped Adam Copeland's head clean off of his shoulders, and at Revolution, he's going to finish the job. Woo. And Jay White's music then hits, and he comes out, and I'm like, what's the plan here, Jay? Because there's like 5 of them and 1 of you, whatever the numbers are. And sure enough, you see Pac creeping up behind him. And I was like, this is about to be a really stupid babyface move. But sure enough, you think you know him. Copeland comes out, slides in the ring in the back, and beats the piss out of Jon Moxley. The babyfaces manage to overcome the numbers disadvantage against the Death Riders. Jay immediately hits Pac with a Blade Runner on the stage, and then they each take turns hitting their finishers on the other Death Riders members as Jon Moxley gets out of the ring, hops over the rail, goes up the aisleway again. Again, that'd be a good time to look for a picture of Tegan if you're able to find one. But Cope had Spike, Janice's long-lost cousin, and grabs the mic and says, Moxley, you've got no nuts and no guts and no spine. You're a coward. You don't own these seats. These are not your people. These are my people. And they really, because they did a highlight pack from Grand Slam early in the show, and they really sold how cool everybody singing Metalingus was, right? Like, that was the one of the big focal points of that highlight pack. So Cope saying, these are my people, it hit a little bit harder. And he said at Revolution, before we get to that, he says that over the next few weeks, he's going to take out the Death Riders one by one. So at Revolution, it is just one-on-one, man-to-man, Cope versus Mox, and I'm going to kick your ass. Now, I have one feeling of trepidation when it comes to this.
Me too.
Because, well, I've got a few, really, because I've been watching this whole thing. My one bit, because I like this segment, and I think that the last few weeks, now that I've seen a few weeks of better than average presentation for this program, I'm not hating the Death Riders and Cope thing quite like I was. I wouldn't have it be the world title program personally. No. I'm unchanged in that, but I think it is much more palatable with how good AEW has been over the last month. However, my feeling of trepidation on this is I hate with a passion the story trope of the baby face is going to beat all the goons en route to the world champion. But he just beats them in matches that have no sort of stip or nothing that says you can't interfere at Revolution, you're barred from ringside, any of that. I see it quite often where it's like, okay, you beat them. You've not incapacitated them.
No.
It's not like, I thought one time where they did it pretty well is when Randy Orton punted every member of the New Nexus en route to facing CM Punk at WrestleMania 27.
That was great.
Right? Like, you gotta put these guys in the hospital if you don't want him to interfere.
He might do, though.
He might do. He's a crazy man with a board full of...
he does the broken chair thing.
Yeah,
right?
he could do that too. So it's just my feeling of trepidation. I could be proven wrong. But that is a trope that I very much don't like. And I've seen it fairly recently. I think, like, yeah, I brought it up in the lead into Full Gear as well, where, like, Orange Cassidy's like, I'm going to beat you, Wheeler Yuta, and then take you off the board. You're a pawn. He's the king. I'm coming for the king, and I'm going to take the pawn off the board first. And, like, yeah, Orange Cassidy beat Wheeler Yuta, but then Wheeler Yuta still was involved in Full Gear. It's like that win doesn't mean anything unless there's that weight behind it. So, because Cope very recently has spoken about wanting to wrestle Claudio, for example, and never has had a chance so far and all that. So if that's a match that we're going to get, and it looks like we are, I'm really excited to see that. I would really like to see that match. If he just beats Claudio, and then they all just get up and beat his ass, and they're all there at Revolution, I won't see much of the point of it. But I'm more on board with all this than I have been.
I feel like you and I submitted 2 essays for the same project, but gave different answers. Yours more substantial than mine. Because mine kind of has a bit of your gripe. Mine's more superficial in comparison. I hate the insert trope hunter gimmick. Because it is kind of like he's now the Death Rider hunter, right? I'm going to hunt them one by one in terms of
Frankie Kazarian, the elite hunter.
Well, I've got a list of people that tried and failed. Drew McIntyre failed as the Bloodline hunter because they dropped after the Royal Rumble. Frankie Kazarian. Which group was he trying to hunt?
The elite.
The elite hunter failed that. Bullet Club hunter Yoshitatsu.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you, Yoshitatsu?
So I just listed all and then recent one, Orange Cassidy was Death Rider hunter number 1. Mm-hmm. So it just felt like I haven't seen a successful one. Like the only one you mentioned, he didn't call himself a Nexus hunter, was Randy Orton. He successfully actually ended a group.
He killed Husky Harris.
Yes, back to
be
developmental.
Reborn as Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I'll be interested to see where this all goes. Renee Paquette backstage again was getting her work done today.
Money.
Yeah. I hope Renee is getting paid handsomely because she should be. She's interviewing Mercedes Moné, and the feeling is very jovial. It's very uplifted. They're very happy with how Mercedes managed to pull off her win against Harley Cameron in Grand Slam. But she said that she doesn't want any interruptions or surprises, and Renee has a clip to show her, and it's Momo Watanabe after Grand Slam saying that she challenges Mercedes to a match for the TBS title at Revolution. This, of course, coming off the back of Momo Watanabe winning the 4-way women's invitational, whatever it was called, at Wrestle Dynasty for a shot at the title of her choosing. So that's the match we're going to get at Revolution, and Mercedes was pissed, didn't want a surprise, and said, Momo, if you want to have this match, show up and say it to my face. I don't have to spend too much time on it, but I don't think the result of this match is going to be in doubt whatsoever. However, I really hope LA gets up for this match, because that if you put that match in a Stardom ring, you're looking at like a match of the year candidate, right? And it's all about the atmosphere. If people just treat this as like a nothing match that everyone knows Mercedes going to win, all that, I think it could fall flat, and that would be disappointing, because otherwise I think this has a chance to be one of the best matches on the show on a very stacked card. Mm-hmm. So fingers crossed for that.
My loins are tingling in excitement.
Hell yeah. We then had our women's match of the show as Megan Bayne took on Kris Statlander. And this was an interesting match because this was very clearly the biggest match that Megan Bayne has had in AEW to this point. You know, a star of equal magnitude and stature, you know, big women. And they had a Megan Bayne showcase, basically. Mm-hmm. She was powerful. She was throwing Kris Statlander around. She was no-selling big moves. she managed to hit a spear that it looked like one of those old Goldberg spears, where as soon as it happens, they're moving at the same time, but they stop and then drop. Like, there was no backwards. It was just thud down. It was neat. Megan Bayne hit a really nice German suplex in this match, and after no-selling a side slam on the apron from Kris Statlander, she popped back up and hit like a back suplex over the ropes back into the ring. So this is all really good stuff. Kris Statlander ends up on the top rope. Penelope Ford comes out, pushes her off the top rope behind the referee's back, and then Megan Bayne hit the F5 and won. So it was a bit of a lame finish, but it protected Kris Statlander in a sense, and they did enough throughout the match to show that Megan Bayne is not to be messed with and that she is strong. So I kind of get it, but it was still lame. But what was even worse, however, was the post-match, because Penelope Ford then lays the beat down on Kris Statlander, and Thunder Rosa makes the save. This was set up on Collision a week and a bit ago, and this was really odd, because Thunder Rosa comes to the ring with a chair in hand to ward off these evildoers and save Kris Statlander, and she gets in the ring, and she's holding this chair, not like she's going to swing it, and the heels never retreat. So you get this really awkward moment of just like Thunder Rosa having to like swing the chair back as if she's going to hit someone, but then like stop because for whatever reason she wasn't going to hit anyone with it. And she kind of like wrestles with Penelope Ford with the chair.
That was awkward.
And they're still not getting out of the ring. I don't know what happened here. I don't know. Obviously something was miscommunicated. But like, swing the goddamn chair. I'm not saying put people at risk. You know, I'm not saying be dangerous or nothing like that. But this was like exposing what's going on here. You could tell that something was going wrong. You know, so just if you start swinging and they don't duck, that's on them. You know?
You know what? Yes, after seeing that, so
protect your own presentation at a point is my whole thing with it.
Well, my 2 cents on this match is I'm going to borrow a discourse again from Grap City. So men are known for having meats or meat off wherever. So there was a discourse what to call the women. So one guy put down a wagon off. You know, yeah. So I put down 2 maidens having a wagon off. That wasn't agreed upon in the discourse because it's kind of like, it's that the word we want to go with. It doesn't flow as like meat. It's like wagon.
You're right. It doesn't.
Well, yeah. It's like me. That, you know, the testosterone pumping kind of chant. Wagon. But anyway, I liked where we got a superplex from Stat and then Megan Bayne countered that with a Falcon Arrow. That was chef's kiss. And Megan Bayne seems to be everything that Camille didn't turn out to be. I'm not saying that they're the same caliber wrestler. No. As you see, Megan Bayne has got more in her wheelhouse. It's not like, I am a plodding powerhouse. No, she's got more explosive moveset. And Camille, she does the powerhouse stuff, but she was quite limited in her wrestling, unfortunately. And I still feel like you shouldn't give up on Camille, as in send her to Stardom, or what I've been pitching, put her with MJF. Let her be MJF's heavy. Just look menacing. Listen, what got over in NWA was her being the insurance policy for Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
You know what? She does have a thing that works for her. Like maybe like she can do Natalia training in the meantime while she's on screen. She's got screen presence. That should never be taken away from her. It's just like everything else just didn't expose her, and you shouldn't. Anyway, I don't cape for people losing their jobs or whatever. I'm always about giving people more chances. Kind of like in the job, you're like, these are set targets and goals we want you to achieve, and that's what I want for her, like to be given an opportunity to do better. Anyway, Megan Bayne, it's between her and Zarya. Who has the best F5 out of the 2 women wrestlers, right? Zarya. There's a reason why, it's because Zarya gives more height. Megan Bayne is just like, she F5s like she's F5 in Big Show. That's the answer. I wasn't going to ask you. That wasn't a rhetorical. That's the answer. It's there and then. Watch both of them. Zarya gives a bit of height. She does it from like her left arm as well. She does it from a different. I get confused because I'm used to a certain pivot. But yes, the match was good. Statlander is 5'9", and allegedly billed at 5'11" is Megan Bayne. She looks every bit of 5'11". I don't know how much lifts because I don't look at her feet. I look at her physique. And she has got what it takes to be a big star. Aligning her with Penelope Ford, it's kind of like you're making Penelope Ford step all the way back to a comfort zone, which doesn't benefit her from at all. Yes, the bunny is gone, but she's meant to shine without the bunny. But instead of the bunny, they've given her Megan Bayne. But Megan Bayne's presentation is she's a goddess. So in comparison, she kind of looks like a common woman.
You look at something like this, and I can only see this partnership as a way for Megan Bayne to lose matches without getting pinned. Like, if you look at these 4 people, one of them is going to get pinned in the tag match that they will have, and it's going to be Penelope Ford, and that's why they're doing it. You know, it's like, okay, I kind of get that. Doesn't mean I'm super enthused about it, but I can see the logic in it.
I get what you mean. That is a good rebuttal. I would have given Megan just smart Mark Sterling. You know, if you want to have someone that capes for her and probably talks on her behalf, it would work. It makes it the magnitude, the goddess.
I don't feel like smart Mark Sterling is a main event manager.
You know what? People would have said the same thing about Prince Nana once upon a time.
That's fair. You could always change my opinion on it, I suppose. And we'll get to him
and I love
shortly.
Again, yeah, and I am a huge Nana fan, but you know,
Backstage, Max Caster announced that he has another open challenge set for Collision, and then we had an in-ring promo from one Ricochet. This guy keeps surprising me. Where was this guy?
Who's this guy?
Who is this Ricochet, man? This man was in his bag. He was carrying himself like a star. He had like an eloquence to his promo and a confidence in his promo. And the best explanation that I have seen anyone give is just like, he feels confident. You look at what he is doing now, and maybe he was just never cut out for generic white meat babyface WWE promos.
He wasn't feeling it.
Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has that skill set. And I do not hold that against him by any means. But he went out there and like the substance of this promo doesn't really matter. You know, he went out there, he compared himself to Kevin Durant wanting to leave Phoenix, which is very funny and good heel work because I don't like Kevin Durant. But he said that he's there to win championships. You know, he makes fun of all the fans. Says he's done with Swerve Strickland. He's moving on. And Swerve's music hits, and Prince Nana comes out alone. He's just like, listen, this is just man to man. I've told Swerve not to come. You took that robe, and that robe does not belong to you. And he heaps the backstory and significance onto the robe. Because he didn't just take the thing that belongs to Swerve and Nana. He took a symbol of what Nana stands for. And for a lot of that career, it has been, you know, very heelish things. Prince Nana was always this, like, sniveling kind of, like, geek heel manager where he's like, you know, he's a Nigerian prince. And so people always made jokes about, you know, like, oh, he's the one sending your grand emails and stuff like that, right? Like... Wow. Which I think might be mildly racist at this point.
That's what I'm laughing at.
You know, but like it was the time. That was just kind of the character, you know? He was this wacky prince character. Yeah. And since then, he's become this beloved figure backing up Swerve. Crazy. And now you're able to look at this robe and he goes in there and says that robe is about honor. It is about prestige. It is about who we have lost. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jimmy Rave.
Yeah.
You know? And he heaps all of this and just says, Ricochet, if you are the good person that you always said you were, please just give it back. And Ricochet gets right in his face and just says, take it. And at this moment, like, Nana is trembling. He is scared because it didn't work, and now he is in the lion's den with someone who's made it very clear that he will not hesitate. And, man, this whole thing just... Every part of this Ricochet presentation has been a complete 180 from where we were. And I could not be happier for him and to see it just in general. Like, this was phenomenal.
It feels great to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
It generally does. So there's a few things that jumped out of me. Ricochet, when it came to doing promos, right, it feels like, I don't know, his southern twang is hitting much better now than he used to before. When he used to do, 5-page paragraph promo in the ring, he wasn't really feeling it. But now it's like he's found the right tone to use his voice. because it came to the point where like he doesn't have a right voice for doing promos, and he's finding ways. There's that line towing. He's not trying to be tough as well. There's a subtlety to his demented, because he's demented. That's what it is. Because some people are trying to be, I'm this big bad. He doesn't huff and puff his chest. No. He's just this guy who's deluded. Yeah. He's another guy that he's choosing layers instead of like, external appeal. I'm carrying the scissors. I'm this bad as no. It's this guy. He's basically broken. We made him snap.
Yeah,
we made him snap, and he's gone out of line. And the unpredictability is the fact that he stabbed with scissors. He can do it again. His twang is nice. He did a line that I wrote down. I was like, I wanted to recite it. When you boo a winner, you boo into a void of nothingness. I was like, I like that. Saying that whatever they're throwing at him.
I would never expect Ricochet to be able to deliver that line 6 months ago. But everything worked. He's found it, man. I don't know if he'll always have it by any means, but...
Samantha Irvin, we're giving you kind of credit because you're at home with him. Don't lie, he's not practicing promos with you. Don't lie, you might be saying punch this up, punch that up, or whatever it is, because this version of him is great. And I also wrote that when Prince Nana came out, he didn't do the dance, which was chef's kiss. Because how many times during Swerve, beat down of Swerve, face-to-face confrontation, the mean dance he does, which pops us. But for him, it was like, this is a personal thing. I wrote down that the robe is like AEW's Ula Fala. The significance of it has been elevated. Because a lot of people are like, well, it's just that robe that Swerve wears. For a lot of people that don't know the history of Nana and ROH and the Embassy. But for him to talk about the significance of like, this is the robe I bestow onto people. I didn't bestow it onto you. And when he said to like, please give it back to me, there's one thing that you said that, but you said the punchline, which was take it. But before that, he was like, oh, what? All right, Nana, you want it? Take it. That's when it became, for me, is like the crux of the Ricochet character.
Mm-hmm. You see a switch get flipped.
He comes across like an amiable guy, but you know his action's not amiable. So now you're a bit afraid because you're like, he's saying the words. He didn't say, take it, I'll break your bones. He did not say that. He said, take it.
This is it. Because I think Ricochet's character of this, like, sniveling, like, kind of nerdy, cringe heel would work to an extent if that was what it was and he would get beat. But you do know that he can be dangerous, and that is the entire crux of it. Because if there was no fear on the part of anybody that this guy could actually hurt you, I think the character falls flat.
Bingo.
But it's
Swerve,
such a good presentation.
Tip my hat off to Swerve because that angle completely transformed who Ricochet is, who Trevor Mann is. He's the man. He's living up to his surname. And again, looking forward to it. One of the best characters on TV, like characters. That's something you didn't associate with when he was doing Dragon Gate, PWG, when he was doing the brief spells of ROH, brief spells in New Japan, his NXT run, which was arguably, up until this point, his greatest run in North America without a mask. Huh? They try to have me. You're gonna have me. Big up the Prince Puma. But yeah, this character, I love it because you don't know what's gonna happen. A lot of times you get annoyed because it's a shtick, it's a stereotype. He's not doing that. He's like bucking stereotypes. What should be? I equate him to X-Pac at one point, but I was like, X-Pac was, he did the nunchuckers and he did make Chris Jericho cough up blood. But they didn't really, I don't know, they really didn't lean into it because the nunchucks, you start I think it seems like a funny weapon to use.
Yeah, they're silly. Like, I know that they are very serious if I'm watching a Kung Fu movie, for example, but it's like in the Ambrose Asylum match. Like, Dean Ambrose starts swinging around nunchucks, and it's just like, it looks goofy in a pro wrestling setting.
I mean, they have done it before. But this presentation, the glasses, everything about it, because I'm thinking Frank Grimes vibe. And I think as Simpson fans everywhere, what I'm getting at. You just look at him, you're like, I am uneasy because I don't know what you're going to do. And again, he doesn't need a Hurt Syndicate because he's the one guy people say he's going to benefit so greatly in the Hurt Syndicate. No, he can stand on his own. And if Samantha eventually appears as his manager, definitely that'll be the cherry on top. We don't exactly need it right now, or if it never happens, it's not a disappointing thing. It's just an extra cherry on top because they'll kill it as that insufferable couple.
Can't wait. Then we had our main event as Orange Cassidy faced Roderick Strong. Orange Cassidy coming out with the light blue denim and Jane playing him to the ring as opposed to Where Is My Mind and the dark denim. And this was, your standard high-level AEW TV main event. There was some, like, call it mind games early on because Roddy immediately left the ring, hugged Kyle, and they just kind of then swapped places. They did a quick sequence, but Orange then stopped, rolled out of the ring, also hugged Kyle, and had a bit of a brief, like, kind of stare down with Adam Cole, who they have history, of course. But they went back in the ring. It was a good match, you know. It was a good match. They traded their signature moves, went back and forth. There were backbreakers, as there are in all Roderick Strong matches.
Love him.
Love him. Loves those backbreakers. And eventually Orange hits the Orange Punch and gets the win. So, a solid little match here. Not necessarily one you'd need to go out of your way to see, but a good match. And then afterwards, Tony Schiavone gets in the ring, says, Orange, you've just come back. You're going to now go on to face Takeshita, at which point he gets interrupted by the Don Callis family. They come down, Mark Davis and Konosuke Takeshita double team Orange Cassidy, and then it's Kenny Omega making the save. Battle cry rains out, and he beats all of them down, hits a V-trigger on Konosuke Takeshita, and grabs the international title, holds it over his head as the show went off the air. And they made a big point of saying, like, one of these three men's going to leave Revolution with the title and everything. I think Kenny's going to win the title off of Konosuke Takeshita at Revolution. I could be wrong, but that would be what I would imagine. This was a solid little main event. I'm surprised we didn't get Will on this show. But the show, strangely enough, is so good right now that you can have a week where Will Ospreay is not featured, or Swerve, for that matter, and it doesn't feel like a massive void has existed in the show. Like, no. This is where you can really tell that the show has been a step above where it was maybe like a month ago, because this show featured not a word of Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, or the Hurt Syndicate. And it was still great.
Stacked roster.
This is where their stacked roster really comes into play. And if you do start to be able to, like, rotate the big featured angles amongst these top guys, where this week it's MJF and Hangman, next week it might be Swerve and Ricochet, week after it then might be, you know, Will and Kenny and Fletcher and Takeshita, all that. That's how you keep a consistently excellent show, and you don't have like the one we got a few weeks ago where, like, you know, Kenny and Will came together and that was a big deal. You had the Hangman and CD thing, that was a big deal. Lots of big things all on and then next week there was nothing. If you can space them out and have big stuff for all of your shows, that's the sign of a great roster and of a booker with restraint. And those things are both big positives in AEW right now. I gave this a 4 out of 5. Honestly, the opening promo makes me want to give this show a 5 out of 5, but no matches really stuck out to me as being like that really set it over the top type thing. Although I enjoyed all of them.
But
basically,
if there was
a good show.
If there was one match I say to look out for is, if you're not familiar with Megan Bayne, watch this match with Kris Statlander. That was a good showcase of what she's about. I sat notes. So I wrote down on the main event match, it's the first time I've heard the Undisputed Kingdom song play longer than a few seconds. It's a new theme. This is like,
is this the new theme or is this the Roddy Strong?
No, it's the
version of it.
So basically, my theory, because it hasn't been proven, I can't say this is what it is. The old theme was too heelish. I don't think it was slower, but Kingdom sounds creepy. I don't know.
You're right.
It's not. I guess it's not cheerworthy.
Yeah.
This is, you know, classic ruckus noise. You know. Yeah. So this is the babyface theme. Definitely is, because Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, they came out of it together, and Adam Cole did, because he's not wrestling in the match, so they came out together. That's the group theme. They need to stop making Adam Cole's theme the theme they come out to. You kind of little brothers them. I don't like that. If you're a unit, you're a unit. I'm a kind of guy, if I turn here, I'll be like, yeah, your music was playing. That's not our music, okay, mate? That's the Owen Hart kind of thing. I'll turn heel like that. I'll kick your leg out your leg. Another thing that I noticed, JR's back on commentary, by the way, guys. They used him well for the main event. Tony Schiavone was at the show. Yeah, but again, Ian Riccaboni, it's always a pleasure to see you. Ian Riccaboni and Big Bill went university together? What? That's something else that's been mentioned. I think you mentioned it in Australia, and he also brought it back, saying that he also had that kind of confidence about him. I just wanted to highlight that. Ian Riccaboni and Big Bill, they know each other from way back. That's a huge thing. But in terms of the main event, Orange Cassidy has done everything he can do as international champion. It's a great callback, but I don't want him anywhere near the title. Not as a bad thing. You know, when you cement something, it's cemented, it's a legacy. If they give you a statue, you don't go back and do things again. You're cemented. He should be in a world champion contention. As much as there's like a sour taste of his run with that whole Drano situation. I don't know what it is. They were trying to mouthwash. They're making him drink. He's got unfinished business. I want him back in that storyline because he's meant to be one of the young guys, the OG guys that never reached that level, that should get to that level. He's the Lex Luger to the NWO storyline to the Darby Sting. They should vindicate him because I feel like that feud has taken off a bit of luster on Orange Cassidy. He's now back, but we're not looking at him the same way, the same kind of love. We still love him, but it's kind of like there's a bit of damage that's been done to your character. You can't come back to this feud without being done with the other feud. So I feel like it's unfinished business in that regards. Kenny Omega, face to face with Orange Cassidy. Give me more of that. There's certain like matchups still feel fresh after like the 5-6 year history of AEW.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Again, we spoke about it last week, but I do think that is a strength of theirs as often as it, as we end up with matches that we didn't get to see. So let us know what you thought about this episode of AEW Dynamite in the comments down below. And right before we go, we've got some very important people to give a shout out to, those being our big old Pledgehammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where you can see all of the exclusive content that we make over on that platform. TLCs, 3 Count, Survival Series, Worst Match Ever. You can watch all of it along with us. It is very, very fun. Thank you.
Sorry.
So a big shout out to Keep Rolling, the Rick Peck. Yeah.
Trev Dog 316.
Yeah. Commentator of the Century, Vince Phillips. Yeah.
He clashed at the castle, William Wallace.
Yeah. Willie, Big E Singleton. Yeah.
The Iron Zeke.
Yeah. They put the Mo in Movember. Yeah. And of course, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without our wonderful moderation team. So a big shout out to the mods, Andy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Ian.
Yeah. James. Yeah.
John K.
Yeah. John KV. Yeah.
John A.
Yeah. We need a few more Johns. And of course, because she never puts herself on the list, the wonderful mod mother, Jenna, who we would be able to do none of this without. Thank you to all of our mods and to all of our Pledgehammers. Get your own custom wrestling nickname by signing up today over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We are out of here. We will be back next week with our Raw review, so stay tuned to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. I have been Tempest. That has been Sat. I love Hangman Page. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Jam that jam.
And the house always wins!